Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And in this 10-minute moan, the topic is destroying the SNP. Now, the reason for this video is yesterday at the protest at Holyrood, I mentioned that unionists who feel the SNP had destroyed our country and nationalists who feel they destroyed their ambitions of independence could actually destroy the SNP, make this morally bankrupt party financially bankrupt. Now, a lot of people have asked, well, what did you mean by that, Craig? And I did say tactically voting could end them. I want to explain in this video exactly what it means, how easy it is to do, and what I intend to do at the next election, which will be the general election in Westminster, hopefully, in the not-too-distant future. Now, what I will not do, and I will refuse to do, is tell any other Scots person how they should vote. I'll tell you how I'm going to vote. I explain why I'm going to do that. And if you think that makes sense, then please feel free to join me. So, the first thing we need to understand is the financial position of the SNP. Now, without boring people to death and getting into a total, half-hour rant about accounts, I've looked at them, I've had other people look at them, and I've taken advice about them. And in the last 2 years, the accounts for the Scottish National Party have shown losses. They are losing and hemorrhaging money. And if you remember, it's things that you can find yourself, but you'll know most of this stuff. Not so long ago, Peter Morrell, when he was still the top kiddie, he had to bail them out with a 6-figure loan. That was purely for cash flow, because they had no money then. We also know that they've got a £600,000 balance missing from their accounts that was ring-fenced by donations ring-fenced to be used at a future referendum. That's why the branch farm investigation took place. This is all out in the public domain. And the guy who started that branch farm investigation by taking a complaint to the police is an independence lover who had contributed to this. He saw their accounts and thought they've not got that £600,000 anymore, so they'll need to find a way of putting that back in. Now, campaigns for elections cost money. So this business, for want of a better word, is already hemorrhaging money. And we could have 2 elections out the next 3 years. It's a very simple equation that the less MPs you have, and the less MSPs you have less income. Because they charge a levy to every Member of Parliament in Westminster, and they take a donation of every MSP at Holyrood out of their wages to go into the party. You also get from the British government money called short money, which allows the opposition parties money to provide offices, etc. for their MPs. I think the short money is 7 figures. I think it's about £1.2 million to the SNP for the current number of MPs. They rely on that money. They rely on all of that money. And I think the figures brandished about for the levy from MPs and NSPs is somewhere in the region between 300,000 and £500,000 per year. Can you imagine if the Scottish electorate managed to vote them out in the majority of their seats in Westminster? The knock-on effect to that is tremendous. They've also a party that donations and members are dwindling year on year. Their income is hemorrhaging, as I say. So, losing MPs, losing MSPs could break them financially. When you look at the accounts just now with the set number they have of MPs and MSPs currently, they're still in financial bother. So, how do we do it? It is actually very simple. But it's very simple for somebody like me who has no allegiances to any party. I don't care for many of them. So, tactically voting is how we get rid of them. And if we all tactically voted, this is what I'm doing. I will look at the time, and I think it's fair to say, because of where I said stay, the most likely party to dethrone them will be Labour. So, I need to vote for them. Now, folk can say, but Sarwar this and Starmer that and Labour done this and Labour done that and blah, blah, blah. That's all I hear. Blah, blah, blah. Because my sole intention as a voter, come the Westminster election, is to get SNP to get as little seats as possible. So regardless of whether it was Labour, SNP or Lib Dem, the best chance of moving them from my constituency that I live in, that's who I'd vote for. If it just happens to be Labour, my conscience is clear. However, you'll get at in this conversation with a gentleman yesterday outside Holyrood that said, he wants to vote for reform because he thinks it's time for new, fresh parties to get involved in politics. And I don't disagree with that ethos. I think it's a perfectly acceptable ethos. However, won't help get rid of SNP. New parties, reform, etc., even the Scottish Family Party that, I'm starting to get involved with a few of their people, do have a good claim to be represented in either parliament. That's what parties want. However, I could not recommend anybody voting for them for the simple fact they are not going to de-seat SNP out of any seats in the near future. And the more parties we have just make moving out SNP even more difficult. If you imagine we lived in America, with a two-party structure that they have, how easy it would be if 20% of the country just decided they don't want to vote for SNP anymore, if there was only an option of two. But unfortunately, what happens in the United Kingdom is, let's call them non-SNP parties, there's too many, and rising. So the people who don't want to vote SNP, their votes get split. So by voting for anybody other than the party more likely to get rid of them in your area, is only going to help the SNP. Because with all due respect, Tory Conservative are not going to get into this area that I'm in. And I doubt Reform will get into any areas in a Westminster first past the post election. So by voting for them, you're just making the job of whoever would be second place more difficult. When people say, I always vote Tory or I always vote Labour, and if I have to tactically vote, I need to go against that. Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do. What you need to do is, you need to decide if your loyalty to whatever party you voted for your whole life, is that greater than your desire to rid Scotland of the SNP? When, as I've already explained, we may have, to quote their words, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy them. If your need to vote for Tory or your need to vote for Labour because you've done it your whole adult life is greater than your wish to destroy the SNP, then do what you've always done. But, and I hark back to a story from, I believe it was the 2019 election, when I was not as politically aware or politically bothered, to be honest with you. I just always didn't really fancy SNP. I'm sure it was the 2019 election. And I was having a conversation with one of the older guys in a local pub, and he asked me, who are you voting for at election, Craig? And I said, I'm voting Labour. And he looked at me as if I had two heads, because he felt that I would be a Tory voter like him. And he was like, why are you not voting Tory? I said, because he can't win. They will not get the seat in this area. I am wasting my vote. I would be as well not voting. Oh, no. You assured me you have to vote Tory. And I didn't. I voted Labour. And in that election, in that constituency, Tory came third with 5,500 votes. SNP won, and they beat the Labour candidate by a mere 100 or so votes. The next time I was in my pub, same guy was having a right old moan about how I caused Conservative because folk like me voted Labour. And I reminded him that his bigger problem was folk like him allowed SNP to get in power. So that's it. If you wish, you can vote for whoever you wish. It's none of my business. I have no right to demand anybody votes for anybody they don't want to. I'm just telling you what I want to do and what I will do in my attempt to get rid of and possibly destroy the SNP forever. If you don't want to do that, that is your wish. But don't be the old guy in my pub, my local, and moan about the result when your parties came third and the SNP are representing you in Westminster because you've wasted your vote. So what will we do? Well, what I'll do is I'll not be alone because people have done this before and they work it out who people in every constituency are best voting for if their sole desire is to get rid of the SNP and, as I've already explained, get an opportunity to destroy them. I'll do some videos on it once we know the figures, and many others I know will be doing it because it's always muted at elections. But we've never, ever had the big boy pants on and been able to carry it out. And I don't care how bad Anna Sanwar is. I don't care how bad Keir Starmer is. If I need to vote Labour to get rid of the SNP and potentially get rid of them forever, I'll do it. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you think it makes sense and it will help explain to your friends, etc., why they should tactically vote, send it to them. If you're not already subscribed, please do that. And get involved in the comments below. But most importantly of all, as I always say, Aisha Hamza Yousaf, the cult, or the SNP. Have a great day. Cheery bye now.